What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Talk Recovery, where we talk about recovery from addiction and I share my life with you. My name's Nicole and I'm a person in recovery. My sobriety date is July 13th of 2015. I am also a person that is utilizing a medication-assisted treatment program, and I advocate for multiple pathways of recovery. If you guys don't know who I am, then you need to know who I am, and you need to come and follow me so that way you can hang out with us every single night at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. What I would like for you guys to do is give me a like, share this video, and also drop in the comment section and let me know how long you've been sober and something that you're grateful for. I am grateful because I have you guys in my life, and you guys inspire me to keep making content and keep helping other people. In fact, the way I stay sober and the way I stay on track is by helping others. And you guys inspire me every single day to keep on doing that. And I really just want y'all to understand that. Okay? So, tonight we have a special guest on. Tonight we have the famous Tracey Helton coming on. Tracey was on a documentary that I found on YouTube like 4 or 5 years ago. And I remember watching it and I was just like, this is so fucking real. You know, she was on a documentary called Tar Heroin. She's a huge advocate in the recovery community. She is 23 years sober. She's got degrees and shit, y'all. Like, she's like legit. She's super smart. She works like in recovery, out of California, and she's somebody that I look up to in my recovery. She's also taken a chance to help me out with a couple things, and she didn't have to help me with things. She's also helped me to see that, it's okay that I'm on medication-assisted treatment and that my recovery is just as valid as the next person's recovery. And, she's just a really good person, I just started to get to know her here on TikTok, but I followed her on Instagram for like 2 years. And so I would see her in passing, because we're both part of the recovery community. But she just recently started her TikTok this last year, and she just recently hit 10,000 followers. So she likes to, she says she posts cringy stuff, but I think her stuff is great because it's relatable and she just shares the truth. And that's what I like. I like to follow people that are just straight up, that they share the truth. So I'm really excited to have her on tonight. So she's going to go live in 5 minutes. What I want to do is just get you guys in here and get everybody pumped up about hearing her share a little bit of her story and all that good stuff. Okay? Yeah. She's a cool lady, y'all. You guys have to watch that documentary that she was in. I remember watching that documentary and then reading the comments on the YouTube channel, and all these people were talking about how they found her on Reddit, or some way they found her on Reddit. And then she made a video about it the other day. And there was this one clip in that documentary where she had a hospital bracelet on, and it had her last name in it. And do you know that that the addicts, we will not give up. When we want to find you, we will find you. They literally zoomed in on that little hospital bracelet so they could see her last name, and then started doing detectiveness and finding her, She also sends people free Narcan. So if you guys need Narcan, you can reach out to her here on TikTok and send her your address, and she'll send you some free Narcan. So she does a lot of non-profit work. She just does it because she wants to help others, because somebody helped her. And that's what we're all here for, basically. We're all here trying to help each other stay sober and do the next right thing. Some updates of what's going on with me before we have Miss Tracey come on. So I got my hepatitis C medicine, you guys. It's at the pharmacy. I'm just waiting on my insurance to pay for it. Also, I got a speaking engagement. Tracey invited me to be on a panel for Recovery Month. So that's going to be, I think, the week after next. I have it on my calendar. I'm working with a company called Self Recovery, which is a recovery treatment program that's completely online. That link is in my bio. Y'all can check it out. I'm doing the courses too. So if you join it, let me know and we can do our courses. We can talk about the courses together. Let me think. My husband just celebrated 8 months or 9 months. I think he's fixing to celebrate 9 months sober on the 21st. So my husband's doing really good. And you guys know how open I have been about his struggles, and because it affects me, you know. I did go to my Suboxone doctor today, and I am still on 1 milligram because last month it was tough going down to 1 milligram. It was no joke. So I kind of paused my taper, and we're going to just hang out and wait until I feel better. But let me think, is there any other updates I have for you guys? I have t-shirts if you guys want to check them out. The link is in my bio. I also have a Facebook group. I would love for you guys to join. I have people that are doing live streams now in the Facebook group. There is a live stream every single night. So if you guys need support and you want to be in our Facebook group, click the link in my bio, go to my beacons, and go down to the Facebook button, and you can join it. My Facebook group is called Real Talk Recovery with Nicole. Also, I have the Mara meetings linked in my bio. So if you guys are on medication-assisted treatment and you have been to AA and NA and it's not your thing, Mara is legit. And so I got the link to that too. I also have a link to an addiction chat line that I answer. So if you need help finding treatment or resources, you can contact me on that chat. It comes straight to my phone, and I can help you find treatment or resources. So okay, I think I got it all. I think I told you everything, y'all. Now we just got to wait on Miss Tracey. So, yay! Suzanne, what was your name besides, did you change it? Then tomorrow night, y'all, I'm having Joel come on and tell his story. Joel Vanna, I think his last name is. And she has written a book. Thank you, Sassy. She wrote a book called The Fix. What is it called? What is it called? Something about the big fix, right? So she's also an author, you guys. She's a jack of all trades, y'all. Jack of all trades. Tracey is like what I hope I can be one day when I grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes dedication to write a book. It takes dedication to go to college and get your degree. It takes dedication to mail people Narcan and send those out every single day. Like, these things take work. And, you know, that's what we have to do. When we get sober, you guys, we have to put in work. That's what we're doing. We're working. And it's a lot of work to stay sober, but it's worth it, man. The payoff is your life, you know, and that's the best part about it. By the way, oh, I appreciate you guys. And I'm sorry I've been a little down in the dumps lately, y'all. Like I said, I'm really struggling with my weight, and it really makes me depressed, you know. And Tracey, she has talked about that on her TikTok, about her weight. And so I know I'm going to talk to her. We'll talk about it. I will ask her about that tonight on this live, because I'm sure she'll share some insight with us. You know, I used to have the attitude that, like, at least I'm healthy and I am sober, right? But it's like, I want more. Like, I want to feel great. I want to feel beautiful, man. I want to feel hot. I want to be able to take off my clothes in front of my husband. And honey, I want to feel like I'm on stage. I want to be able to flip it back, drop it down, and reverse it. And I can't do that right now because I'll blow out an E with my big ass. And so I want to feel good in my own skin. You know what I mean? That's the deal. Okay, y'all. Here she comes. I'm inviting her. Hey.
Hello. I even brushed my hair.
I'm so excited that you're coming on. So, okay.
I was that excited.
You look beautiful. I was just talking to everybody about sober weight and how it sucks and how depressed I've been lately. So, that's what I'm going through today.
So, I mean, that's the big part. What's the expression? You put down the spoon and pick up the fork. But, I mean, I can only speak for myself, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, that so many of us especially women, have eating disorders, and sort of like the only time I ever got validation about the way that I looked was when I was thin from meth and heroin both. Like the only time I've ever worn a bikini in my whole life, I was like homeless in an alleyway, and I remember someone had said something, and it's like, I don't even have a place to fucking live, but you think I look good, but like this is where I live. Like I have a shopping cart, and like my shit's here, and like that's how you get attention. And after you starve yourself like that, your body stores those calories. Like, bitch, when are you gonna go back out? It's just like stores that fat and stuff. And it takes a long time to adjust. I mean, that's like why your period comes back, after you stop using and stuff like that. And I have to think to myself, and like for me, eating is a coping mechanism. Like before I started using drugs, I would drink like a 2-liter of Mountain Dew and eat a bag of Doritos, and that gives you sort of the same feeling that you get. I mean, you have that feeling like I can just eat and go to sleep, and you store all that stress. You push down all that stress. So like, I remember sometimes like for me, the key to like not binge eating, which I don't really know what that is, but like when I have times when I'm eating better, it's when I'm not like stress eating all the time.
Right. I do. Well, okay, so I do want to talk about this, but I want you. So you just hit 10,000 on TikTok, and you're going to you're going to go all the way to like 300, 400, 500,000. I have no doubt.
Oh no. I don't really want that many followers necessarily, because I would like to have a good interaction with my followers. And I feel like, I mean, I'm not hating on it at all, but what I'm saying is like, I personally like to be able to sit and like comment with people and like talk with people. And I think you do that too. Like I get on social media because I'm a lonely mom who like wants to talk to people, and also like share my insights. The thing that kind of gets me about TikTok in particular, like I've been sober a long fucking time.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people idolize people, and I see them fall off. It's like you're idolizing the wrong people for the wrong reasons. Like sobriety is like a pyramid, and like at the top of the pyramid, it's almost like you have a perfect attendance record. Like you have put in no personal work, you do nothing but just have days and accumulate days. And like days is not the best reflection of like a person's recovery. It's just not. Like you just have to like look at how people live their life, and like, do they live their life in a way that I think how I want to live my life, if that makes sense.
Right. I'm a lot like you though. Like I'm at home, I'm taking care of my son, I work from home, and then I want to connect with people, and so I talk to them through I love it. Like I love being able to connect with people and make friends. And I feel like I sound like such a nerd, but this is how I made friends when I got sober, because I had no friends. I had to get rid of all.
I mean, that's the first thing to go, really. Like, I mean, yeah. So I was in this movie Tar Heroin, and it was on YouTube, and they put it on YouTube. It was on HBO, and when it came out, it was like super popular, and I went through all this like shit when it came out, because everybody knew who I was everywhere I went. And it like really isolated me, because they didn't know me as Tracey. They knew me as this person that was on the TV screen, shooting up and stuff like that. And so I didn't really want to interact with people I didn't know. But then my ex, who was in the movie, Spanky, he like sent me a link, and he said, people on YouTube really have a lot of questions, and they want you to answer your questions. And so I started going on YouTube and answering people's questions and like interacting with people, mostly because I wanted to sort of control the narrative about myself.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want other people telling your story. You want to tell your own story. So, and that's really where I got to like, then I went to Reddit, and I've been doing overdose prevention on Reddit and wrote a book and stuff like that, because I like to be, so many times in my life, my story was taken from me by like abusive men and like, but using drugs and stuff like that. So like, I like to, be, sort of be able to tell my own story and also find a way to interact with people that makes it okay with, me having anxiety and stuff like that, because social media is, I mean, it kind of is bad in a certain way if you have anxiety, but also is good because you kind of can control like when you're interacting with people and how much you're going to interact with them.
Yeah, for sure. So now that you brought that up, because I'm obsessed with that documentary, and when I first started my YouTube channel on YouTube, I was looking for movies to watch about addiction, and I typed in like heroin or black tar or something like that, and it brought it up in the search. Can you share with us a little bit, like, what? Okay, so when you were growing up as a little girl, like, what was going on in your life? How was your childhood? Do you still have your parents in your life? Like, what was it like growing up, and how did you get into using heroin and using drugs?
So I'm old. I mean, I'm old. I'm 51. So both my parents are dead. And so my father was. So he's from London, Kentucky. My mom is from New York. So she was Puerto Rican Italian. My dad's, he was a hillbilly from the mountains, and they met when my dad was in the Navy. And my dad lost his advertising business in the recession in the 70s, and he became a very, very bitter alcoholic, very severe bitter alcoholic. And so my whole youth was like wrapped up in substance use. Like, what I mean by that is, like, when you have this person who's drunk all the time in your life, like at first he tried to like white knuckle it on the weekends and not drink, and we had some kind of like family life. But I mean, by the end, he was going out and getting drunk like twice a day. I mean, he was like, he pissed himself. The whole thing. Went to rehab. It didn't work, and all this other kind of stuff. Your whole life is wrapped up in like protecting that person and like hiding things, and like you don't want anybody outside of the house to know, but you can't, but you actually need someone to talk to, and like secrets and stuff like that. Like I remember I was telling a friend, like I remember having to crawl on my hands and knees to get in his wallet when he was passed out to like have money for lunch. So pickpocketing people is something I need to do from a young age, like in like lying to people, because you don't want to tell people, well, my daddy's drunk, and you want them to he's picking you up from school. He's got to get home.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be a drinker, but when I got around to, and I was exposed to like drugs before I was 8. I drank and weed and stuff like that. Like people would give me drugs. They thought it was cute. And then when I was older, I was like, I'm never going to do that. But I remember when I got my wisdom teeth pulled when I was 17, I just tried those T3s or Vicodins or whatever they gave me. And it's not that I was hooked right away. I just like the way that it made me feel. Like that, yeah. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck what you think about my weight or me personally. Like I liked that feeling. And so I bookmarked that feeling for later on. And so heroin was a thing my friend wanted to try. We just kind of like decided. And heroin at the time, I think it's hard for people to understand. Like now heroin's cheaper than a mixed drink. You know what I mean? I can leave my house within 15 minutes. I can get 10 different types of drugs. Not that far from my house. But I mean, heroin was like a big city thing. Like you had to have a way in to get it. And so me and my friend decided, and it took like a long time for us to get it. People had to drive to New York or Chicago, or at the time it was Dayton, Ohio. People would come from New York to Dayton. And we decided to do it. And the very first time I did, my friend overdosed. And we had to revive him. And then they were like, do you still want to do it? And I was like, yes. You're so invested in it.
You were like, yes, I want to do it.
Yeah,
did that scare you?
I was terrified. And they're like, we'll give you half. And it's weird because the person who injected me for the first time, he's been clean for like 10 or 15 years. Like he was like this scumbag dude that'd been in prison. It's so hilarious because I see him now and he's like a realtor with his realtor jacket on. I'm like, do these people know who the fuck you are? Like he was in prison for cutting somebody's face open. And now he's like this realtor in like the Platinum Realty Club. So you never know how you're going to end up. Like right. People are like, oh, what's going to happen to me? You never know how you're going to end up. But so we started using heroin and it really escalated quickly for me. When I was in Ohio, I didn't really have access to a lot of heroin. But when I came to California, right away, I got strung out. I mean, I was strung out like right away because it was everywhere. Like I came out here, it was like a desolate wasteland, and you could just buy drugs on the corner and get a syringe. I had the same syringe the first year that I used. I had one syringe, and you would all share it, and you would hope that it didn't break off in somebody's arm because you had no other syringe. And like, I was like, you can get syringes here, and that's actually where I met Oreo that was in the movie. I met him when he was like 15. He was trying to cop a syringe. And I was like, what the fuck are you, he's like a little kid, like a kid. Like he was the same size he is now, but he was like a kid. I was like, I remember he bought a syringe and it was used. And he didn't realize it was used. And I was like, dude, you can't use this, because you don't want to interact with people who are younger using drugs. But I just told him, like, you can't use this one. You got to get something else. And like, you would see people come, and I had friends that came out here and they got AIDS within 2 years and died. And it was just, and now you see people dying of overdoses, which people died of overdoses then, but not like now.
Right.
I mean, not like now. I mean, I knew people that died, but it wasn't like it is today. You didn't have any Narcan, and I mean, it was rough. It was, but I mean,
why did you move to California? Like, what happened in your old state?
Someone tried to put my eyes out over money. someone kidnapped me. If you really want to know, I mean, if you're
over a drug deal,
over a drug debt. It wasn't my money. I had like a party house, and this guy was there, and someone clipped him, and I didn't know they had clipped him because me and him had been out drinking, I think Cisco or something like that. Like, we were way messed up. And we came back and he passed out and they clipped him, and he didn't know that somebody had clipped him. So he held me hostage until the morning, and then he let me go because he was like, I still have to get this money. I have to get, because he owed it to somebody else. He owed it to a loan shark. And so I got on the first Greyhound bus to California, and I said, fuck this. I'm going to leave, and he's going to figure out what's going on, that I didn't take his money, and then I'll come back. And then he, I saw him like maybe 3 years after that. And he still was like, did you take my money? He knew I didn't take his money, but he still was like, had that little thing like, did you take my money? And I was like, bro, I never took it. He eventually found out who took his money. This other guy had taken his money, but I was like, I'm going to go out to California. So I came out to California, and I got in some legal entanglements, and I just never, plus I was really, really strung out.
Yeah. How did they approach you for that documentary? Were you like just high one day and they were like, hey, you want to do a documentary?
So there's a youth syringe exchange that they had. So you have to picture, at that time, HIV was a death sentence. There was no antiretrovirals. So the county here was very adamant about trying to get new syringes to people. And so there was a place, and so we would actually lie. We would take the inside of the syringe and put it against the barrel and say that was 2, because it was a 1-to-1 exchange. Because you could make $2 to $5 off of one syringe in the middle of the night. I'm homeless. Right. People are coming, and I would do like deals, and I gave people syringes too. I mean, so I tried to come up on a whole box of syringes. Like, you really want it, because that's currency in the drug market. If you have that, you're going to get somebody to help you. And so they were looking for people to be in this documentary. And at that time, they thought I was a little too old. It was actually for A&E, but A&E said it was too graphic. So HBO bought it and said you have to add another year, which is funny because now they do these intervention shows, which I think in some of them are more graphic than Black Tar Heroin. But they said, no, we can't put this on there. It is for like American Undercover or something like that. So they met me, and I was just like, I'm going to die here, so I don't care. You can film me. You can film me doing whatever you want. I would say of all the people in the film, I was more selective about what I let them film me, because like I was doing sex work and stuff like that. Not too much, but a little bit. But I didn't let them film me doing anything, because I was like, my parents are still alive, and I don't want to hurt them. I want people to benefit from seeing my experience, but I don't want to put it all out there because my parents are still alive. And so my mom, she never saw the movie, but she heard about it when it came out, because people were stalking me. They were like calling there's a little scene in the movie where they show my jail wristband, even though it never says what my last name is. And people like found my mother at her job site. She worked at GE, and called her to try to find out how I was. And like, people in very condescending ways would like call her, because she had a daughter that was a heroin addict. That was like the worst of the worst for parents. I mean, as stigmatizing it is now, it's even worse, but I was sober by the time the film came out. I had been sober a year. So she was just like, well, she's sober now. So, but she didn't, she wasn't like that. She never said the F word in her life, but she was she was the patron saint of lost causes for sure.
Man, how did you get sober? Like, what did you do? Did you go to treatment? Did you AA, NA? Did you do no program? Tell us about that.
So I got arrested. Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. So I was in, I was on methadone in that winter. I had got on methadone, and I really wanted to quit. Well, my boyfriend didn't want me to quit because I'm selling heroin, and he wants to get in the car, and he doesn't want me to quit. But I have no veins left, so like when I would use heroin, it would take me like an hour, and I would just sit there, because I do speed and cocaine. So I'd be tweaking, but I'd need the heroin because I'm sick, and so I'd be sitting there like trying to get a hit for an hour. So he eventually was just like, "You're too much. I'm done with you." And I stopped going to the clinic at like 65 milligrams. So I was puky. I was really really sick, and I should have never, And I was just like, how am I going to get off? And at the time, it was the only kind of treatment they had was like Jesus treatment, which worked for some people, but it wasn't for me. And they had, they used to have to attack therapy where they would yell at you. It built based on the Sinmon model, so that wasn't for me. But I didn't even know how to get into treatment. The only way I knew how to get into treatment was through jail, because they had offered for me to go to treatment a couple years earlier, and I had said no. I said, why am I going to go to treatment when I'm not going to stop using? Like, I wasn't ready to stop. So everybody was pissed off at me. The probation officer, my parent, everybody was pissed. But I said, well, I'm not going to go. So now it's like January, and I'm having these heart palpitations because I'm using stimulants. So I'm having heart palpitations. I can barely walk because I'm shooting up in the soles of my feet. I'm walking like a zombie. It's taking me an hour to get a hit. And I had finally said to myself, there's two things. When they arrest me, I'm either going to go on methadone for the rest of my life, or I'm gonna give this abstinence, whatever this treatment is, I'm gonna give it one shot. I'm gonna do this. And so I had a suitcase packed in my closet, and I knew that they were looking for me. All right, friend. I knew that they were looking for me, and when they arrested me, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go to treatment. And when I got in there, I was a lot sicker than I anticipated because I was using so many drugs at the same time. But I said, okay. And they thought I had AIDS. So
Wow.
it took, because I lost so much weight so fast, because I went from like, 145 to 115. Now I'm like double that almost. But I had lost so much weight, they thought I had AIDS because I was wasting away. So it just turned out I was kicking really bad. They had tested me, and it turned out I was HIV negative. But I said, well, even if I have AIDS, I want to get off drugs. So they agreed to send me to this treatment program in lieu of a 3.5-year prison sentence. And people are like, oh, well, you just got clean because you went to jail. It's like, no, I wanted to get clean, and the only way I knew how to get clean was to get in the jail.
Yeah.
And so I was in the jail, and they sent me to this treatment program for parolees. So I paroled into the program, and it was like the street. I mean, there was pimps. Their girls got pregnant when I was in there. They had drug sniffing dogs come in. But there was a little group of us, and we started going to the outside meetings. And people would use the outside meetings to go fuck. They would go put on their pass that they're going, and then they would go other places. And there was like a little group of us. We actually went to the meetings. And so I was hardcore in a 12-step. Very, very hardcore.
So was I.
If you were on, methadone or something like that, you weren't sober. And I was really hardcore into that mindset for a little while, because I said, well, if this is brainwashing, that's fine, because I need my brain washed. I need something to help me. And then I started going to this women's program to like deal with trauma issues and stuff like that. And the women were just like, no, you're traumatized. Like, you need therapy. You need to deal with like all these abusive relationships you've been in. Like, I'm sleeping with a knife under my pillow now. I'm in sober living. I'm just like, I have a really bad startle reflex. Like, if anybody comes up, I'm ready to fight them and stuff like that. It was real, real bad. And what had totally changed my mindset to harm reduction was my Jake from the movie. He and I were running into each other out in the world, and he was on methadone, and he was like working. He had the girlfriend, the really cute girlfriend that he was with, and he was like going to school. He was doing real good. And he said, well, I'm getting off methadone. And I was like, why? And he said, because the people in the NA meetings are telling me that I'm not sober.
Yeah.
And he was dead. And he overdosed and died. And he was dead in the room. The people from NA kicked in the door and came in the room. And I saw him right when he relapsed. And I was like, go back to the clinic. And he was like, no, there's something they're going to help me. And I remember at his funeral, I felt like standing up and saying, which one of these motherfuckers did this to you? Who did this to you? And it was fucked up. It was fucked up. So, hi friends. I see people are saying hi, Dwayne. So it was fucked up to me. And I just said, there has to be another way. Like what I do in my recovery doesn't impact other people, and what they do in their recovery should not impact me. And so I put the NA t-shirts away. I started changing I still wore them a little bit, but I started changing my mindset because I started to see like there is other ways of being besides for just how I am.
Yeah.
And then I started doing overdose prevention around the same time, where it shouldn't really matter what people are doing in their recovery. Like my abstinence doesn't impact other people's recovery.
That's what changed my life. It was Suboxone. Because I was the same way. I had been in and out. I was really just like gung ho AA. And then my son got taken away, and my husband went and got on Suboxone while I was in treatment. And when I came out of treatment and I heard that, I was like, you're just trying to stay high. You're just trying to manipulate the system. And then I was struggling, and I tried Suboxone, and it was the best decision I ever made. It changed my life. It was like, finally, I could actually put together years of sobriety compared to like 3 months here, 6 months here. And then but I was still so into AA and the 12 steps. And so when I started sharing my story, people started attacking me and telling me, you can't say you're sober. You can't say you're in recovery, making fun of me. People in the recovery community. I was just like,
So people used to say, when I first got sober, they would say people on psych meds weren't sober. And I had a sponsee. She ended up in the hospital because they had convinced her to stop taking her psych meds. And she stopped taking her psych meds. She had a psychotic episode, and she ended up in the hospital. She ended up getting pregnant by some guy in the hospital. Like, it was all bad. It was all bad. And I started thinking, like, who are these people to have this much sway in other people's lives? Like, there are the social aspect of 12-step is good. There's things in the program. If you actually read the AA book, they probably would be into harm reduction. I mean, honestly, especially Bill Wilson. I mean, they talked about trying to moderate your drinking and a lot of other things, but it's the people in the rooms. That's the ones that are fucked up. They based on their own advice is not treatment. It's AA is not treatment. Treatment is treatment. AA is a social support system. It's a social support group. So that really, and me talking about harm reduction, it's pissed a lot of people off. I don't go to AA that much anymore. I still have a sponsor. I go periodically. But, I mostly go to talk to the people in the rooms and show them that you don't have to do. If all of the people who believe in harm reduction stop going to AA, then it's always the loud people who are against it that are stuck in the room. And I figure if I go and I try to, show some other people that there's alternatives to just, complete abstinence, because complete abstinence sucks sometimes. I mean, it's hard. And people ask me, have I take pain meds in recovery? I have. So when I had my daughter, I had an emergency C-section. I was on a lot of pain meds for a few days in the hospital. And then I was released. I was kicking. I mean, not like I was addicted, but I was in withdrawal. Like my legs were twitching. I was on pain meds for weeks. And I went and I was like going through all this, my baby screaming. I mean, I had a baby that, mothers understand. My first baby, she didn't sleep. Like she would only sleep for like 20 minutes at a time. Now there's like 2 hours at a time. And I was slow sleep deprived, and I was so desperate. And I went to a meeting. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Am I going to throw this baby out the window? I didn't know what was going on with me. And I went to see, they sent me to the postpartum therapist, because they thought I had postpartum depression. And I was talking to her and I was like, I'm not depressed, I'm overwhelmed.
Yep.
Like, I'm overwhelmed and I have no support and I need support. And I think a lot of what mothers, particularly mothers who have addiction issues, whether they're sober or they're in the middle of, in early recovery, whatever it is, we don't have enough support. Like, we need support around these kids. And I think that's why a lot of people go back to using drugs, because they don't have any kind of, who's going to help me? I remember one time in particular, I'm looking at this baby screaming. It's like, what am I going to do? I'm home alone. My husband's at work. This baby's fucking screaming at me. Like, what am I going to do? And I just went in the shower and took a shower. And I was like, if she can scream the whole time when in the shower, like, I can't, there's nothing is working. Like, none of this stuff works. So I really have a lot of empathy for, mothers in particular, because we're out here struggling.
I tried so hard to not hold my son, because when Nate was born, I was high on meth. And I don't know how I didn't get him taken away from me at that point. But somehow, some way, we made it through the birth, and I went home 2 days later, and I was like, I'm never going to use again. And I really meant that. Like, I really wanted to never use again. And I stayed sober, white-knuckling it for 90 days, and my son was an amazing baby. He slept. He didn't cry a lot. He got to this point where I had been holding him so much, though, that when I put him down, he would cry because he knew I would go pick him up again. And so I remember just crying because he was crying, because I was holding him too much and I wouldn't put him down. And Neil was trying to work overnight. And I remember sitting there and I was like, I deserve to have just one Xanax. I've been sober for 90 days. It's just one Xanax, and I'll just do it. And it'll make me feel better, and I'll be able to relax, And so I took it. I got a friend to bring it over to me. And my mom was at the house. Thank God she had came by. And I fell asleep on the couch with my son on my chest. And he was like on the edge about to fall off. And my mom came around and catched him. And she was like, Nicole, what are you doing? I know you're not sober right now. And I was like, I relapsed. And then I just relapsed and kept relapsing until he got taken away. But it was the hardest thing to stay sober when Nate was first born. I didn't know what to do. And like, I had no support. My mother and father-in-law were just like, they tried to, but they were like, I don't know, just weird about me and my husband having a baby, especially since we had been struggling with addiction. And it was like nobody understood like what to do to help us. You know what I mean?
And child care is extremely, extremely expensive. And my family is across the country, and my husband's mom, she wasn't much help. I mean, it was just me and him and this kid, and but what you brought up is there's like different parts of being sober. There's the getting off drugs. Getting off drugs is fairly easily. It's staying stopped. It's like the maintenance that goes into having mental health care, having support, having, different things in your life so you can stay stopped. That's very difficult. I mean, for me, I think I personally don't smoke weed or drink, because I think that would make me disinhibited enough, because I really want to do heroin. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that I'm against it in any way. Marijuana makes me paranoid as a motherfucker, so I don't even mess with it. I take CBDs to sleep and stuff like that, and that's, if I drink half a kombucha, that's too much for me. Like, it gives me a headache. But I mean, I'm also not like a recovery purist too. Like, when I had my baby and they were like, do you want this fentanyl? Yes, I would. I would like this pain medicine, having this baby squished against my spinal cord. Actually, it's kind of a funny story. When I was giving birth to my daughter, I was screaming so loud, the nurse asked me if I could be quiet. And I've never heard anybody say that. She said I was scaring the other people in the hospital. I was like, bitch, if I could get up right. They had turned my epidural off. So the baby was pressed against my spinal cord. I ended up, because at first I was like, I'm not happy. My mom lied to me. She made me think that having a baby was a natural thing. You go into the hospital, you push a few times, this baby comes out. No one prepared me for like you shitting on the table, all these different kind of things that happen to you. And like, I never in my mind in a million years thought I would have to have a C-section. I found out later she didn't tell me she had the twilight birth where they knock you out and hand you the baby afterward.
Oh, wow.
And then I had asked, because they used to knock women out. And I had asked her later, my mom says, oh, I never did drugs my whole life. Well, what did you do to lose weight after you had my brother? She said, they gave me diet pills. So you're on meth.
Right.
They gave you diet pills. And I said, well, what did you do for the stress of the kids? She said, oh, they gave me Valium. But you never took drugs in your whole life. But they gave you Valium. So a lot of women back then were medicated on things. They just never talked about it. So, I mean, and she was pretty indicative of what it was like back then. To lose the weight, they gave her diet pills. It's like, right. I would like that too. But so I've had 3 of them. I'm not ashamed of like the things that I've done to survive. But to have kids, to manage my life. Getting on the worst stigma that I've experienced in my recovery was going and getting on psych meds, because they had me so brainwashed thinking that I could just do it myself and there was just something wrong with me. And if I just tried, and if I just was grateful enough or did whatever enough, that I was going to get better. And I ended up in the hospital. I have pictures of me in the ER 3 times in 1 month where I was having panic attacks so bad. I was tipping out in the middle of the night because I didn't want to wake my kids up. And I was in the hospital because I was having these panic attacks. And they were just like, you need to go on medication. And I was willing to take the emergency Valium, but I was not willing to take the medication. And finally I was just like, I'm not going to be a martyr for anybody. I'm taking this medication. And my life has it just turned all around since then. Not that I'm happy all the time, because my baseline is kind of depressed. I'm just kind of a sad sack person, but it's not the same thing as like where you are struggling to like be a parent or just to live.
Right.
Like you're thinking about jumping in front of the train. Like, should I jump in front of this, should I jump in front of this train? Like, that's how I was feeling. And it's like, I'm sober. I see why people use over that. Cause that's the option. Like, I don't want to jump in front of the BART train, but maybe I'm going to drink, or maybe I'm going to do whatever. And people don't talk about it enough because they want to make it seem like, when you watch these TikToks, it's 21-year-olds and 26-year-olds and you still look good and you still have abs and you still whatever. Like you're not thinking like that. Like, I'm old.
Right. They have no idea. They have no idea. It's like the depression that I had after getting sober. I had depression before I got sober, but after I got sober, and I want to ask you about this. What about like the energy? Like, I feel like I'm always tired no matter what. I'm only on 1 milligram of Suboxone. It's not like I'm on a bunch of it, but I have no energy at all. It's like the worst ever. And that also makes me to where I'm like, I need energy. I need something. You know what I mean?
Well, you're probably carrying around trauma, honestly. Trauma makes you tired. It makes you want to sleep. You have life problems. It makes you tired. Like,
yeah.
I personally, what makes me energized is I go out and I sit and I watch birds. I do something for myself that's not me taking care of the kids, or like I spend time with cats, or I, do whatever. Like, we get so wrapped up in taking care of other people, we don't spend any time taking care of ourselves. And like for a lot of us, drugs were us taking care of ourselves. That's my me time. Like, I'm using my drugs. That's my me time. And I feel a different kind of way. And like, we have to alter our consciousness in a different way. Like, I like to go hiking. It doesn't have to be a vigorous hike. I'm fat. You know what I mean? Like, but I like to be outside. I like to go to the beach. I like to do different just be out in the sun or whatever it is, just for myself. There doesn't have to be a reason for it, except for I just need to take care of myself. Like, because you have to have time. They say, that 2 dead batteries can't get the car started. Like, you have to, you can't give anything to anybody else if you have nothing for yourself.
Yeah.
So I have to have stuff for myself. But we carry around so much for us. I think a lot of the first 5 years of recovery are really just figuring out how to live.
Yeah, totally.
Just how to maintain. Just how do I maintain? The first year is cutting the dealers loose, and then the bills come. Then it's, am I going to go back to school? What am I going to do for a job? How am I going to manage my family? How am I going to manage my life? You know, after that, it's like, how am I actually going to live like this and navigate this world without substances? Like, how am I going to do that? And everybody finds their own path. And I think that's why, you know, why in 2021, so many people are using marijuana, the cannabis product, whatever you want to call it, because they still need something, you know, they need something to help them. And a lot of people don't want to take pharmaceuticals. They don't trust taking, you know, because I had a reaction to Effexor where I had the brain zaps and I had to go to the hospital. That was some shit right there. I mean, that in itself could have completely turned me off to ever taking a psychiatric medication, because I've never experienced nothing like that in my life, and I've overamped on meth before. Like, that was bad. That was a bad experience. And I was like, well, what am I doing? And they're like, you just have to wait around till it goes away.
I had that same thing happen to me with Lexapro, and it made me feel, because I tried to get off of it, it made me feel like my head was floating above my body. I was having these like little dot things go in the air. It was crazy. It was horrible. How did you like decide to go to college?
You have to taper off of them.
Yeah, I tapered down to like 25, and then I jumped, but which was I should have tapered more.
So that's the one thing I always find weird is people talking about Suboxone. Suboxone acts as a mild antidepressant for some people.
Yeah, it does.
Period. It absolutely does. So, and they actually had a clinical trial where they were trying less than 1 milligram for people for depression by giving them buprenorphine. So people are like, well, getting off Suboxone is where it's like, but getting off Effexor is bad too. Like, getting off anything is bad. Getting off sugar is bad. Getting off coffee is bad. Try to, you're drinking back-to-back Monster Energy drinks. Try stop that for cold turkey for one day and see how that works out for you. You know what I mean? There's dudes I know. There's lots of dudes in recovery. They like to juice steroids. Why is it, Kev? You know what I mean? A lot of the ones that you see in NA in particular, they like to juice steroids and go to the gym, drink their Monster Energy drinks and their creatine and their pre-workout. Drinking their pre-workout, their hands are shaking. Yep. Stop taking all that for a while and see what happens. And see
you have bad withdrawals, like for real.
Yeah, bad withdrawals. So I decided to go back to school. So that was like my thing that kind of kept me alive. So I see Anthony's in here. So I was on Polk Street one night. I was on Polk in this alleyway in Fern Alley with my shopping cart, and I was underneath the street because I pushed a shopping cart. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I was homeless. I had my shopping cart and I was tweaking through my stuff because I would do meth to stay up so I wouldn't get raped. I mean, you're homeless, you don't want to pass out because you don't want anybody taking advantage of you. So I'm tweaking through my stuff, and I remember one night in particular, I said, someday I'm going to go back to school and I'm just going to do it. And no, there was no evidence that would ever happen. There was nothing. And if I believe in any kind of like spiritual anything, that was like a spiritual moment in my life where I said, this is something I'm going to do. And so when the opportunity presented itself, I was just like, I can work these little jobs, but I need to go back to school. Because you go back to school, and actually school is really good for ex-offenders and stuff like that, because you're in your clear mind now. Like when you're in high school, you go into school, you're trying to get laid and do drugs and whatever. But when you're older, you're in your clear mind. And having something that feeds your mind and like you're participating and like you're putting a thought together, like I could barely put a sentence together. I'm sure some of the people on your feed have done meth. When you first get off meth, you can barely put a fucking sentence together. You're like, what is the word for shoe? Like, you can't even remember what it is at first. It takes a while. You have that short-term memory misplacement for all the synapses to go back to where it needs to be, to where you can put a sentence together. So using my mind was like something that was really important to me. And ex-offenders, you can get money to go to school. Like, if you completed a rehab, you can work a twist. It's weird because people are like so shy about working the system. It's like, you work this, the system puts you in prison. You might as well work the system to your benefit. Like, there's things out there if you want to work a twist and figure out how to use it. Like, I'm getting all the monies, all the ways that they can help me. I'm going to let them help me, because you spent $27,000 locking me up. You might as well spend $6,000 or $7,000 trying to rehabilitate me.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you go to school? I know you got like mad degrees. What did you go to school for and what did you get?
So I used to have a substance abuse credential. I don't use that anymore. So I let that expire. I got tired of paying the 200 and something dollars a year to because I never used it anymore. So I have a bachelor's degree in business, a master's degree in public administration. So and I used to have a dual counseling degree, dual addiction specialist credential and addiction specialist supervisor credential. But those I don't really use them that much because I don't really do. I'm way higher in the health department, so I don't really use them as I don't use it anymore.
What do you do now? Like what are you doing at the you work for the health department?
Yes, I run public health programs that are related to peer-based mental health services. So peer support is the concept that I've been through it, and so I can help you go through it by using our common experience. And so that was something I really gravitated for. That's probably part of the reason why I'm still off drugs, because I found that helping people was like sort of like a high in itself, like really
Yes.
feeling like you're contributing to the community and stuff like that. Because I was always a taker, so I can just say straight up, like I was a taker. I would take you. I mean, I wasn't like a person who was getting over, who did committed a lot of crime. Like the person I hurt to myself was myself. I hurt myself the most, but I always wanted shit for me. I mean, I never was like about us. I didn't want to. If a boyfriend needed too much for me, he had to go because I just want to get high. You got to go. Like I can't be with you. I'd rather be by myself. And so when I got doing the overdose prevention stuff and like doing peer counseling and stuff like that, helping other people, it makes me feel like I'm sort of undoing some of the damage that I did to the community. I don't know, and like leaving some kind of legacy. But more than that, I feel like as a human being, you want to help other people to a certain extent, unless you're. But not everybody's like that. Some people, a lot. I mean, a lot of men, they get out, they get out of prison, they get sober, they want to go work in construction, they give back some other. But a lot of us, we want to try to. We're people. So I'm and especially, and I hate to say it like this, but former sex workers especially, we are people. We have observed people our whole life. Then we used it to make money in a certain way, and now we want to use those skills in another way because we're used to observing human behavior.
Yeah. I love helping people. I'm obsessed with. It's almost kind of an unhealthy addiction for me sometimes because I love helping people so much that I will go to I sometimes I have to really rein myself back because I will help people more than they'll be willing to help themselves. Do you know what I'm saying? And I'll be into it more than they are, and so I have to pull myself back and be like, okay, Nicole, you're doing too much. They have to want it too.
Yes. So I'm gonna send you some. I'm gonna send you some naloxone because I could use some help sending it out. I hate the post office. God, I hate the fucking post office.
I just appreciate you coming on here and like talking with us and like just sharing your story with us. So many people look up to you. I know that I don't think I'm not putting you on a pedestal or anything like that, but like you're like pretty badass. You know what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people here on TikTok really, 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 really love you. And I just appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with me for a little bit, and talking with me.
Sure. I mean, I'll say this. It's very hard for me to hear good things about myself, and that's probably one of my fatal flaws. I don't like to listen to that. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but like my ego is so big in some ways. Like the they say people addicts have big egos and low self-esteem. Like I just try to be a good person. I think there's so much need in the world right now. People are dying from fentanyl overdoses. People are so disconnected from other people that I want to share that there's a different way to live and like connect with other people. And like, if you watch that movie and you see how fucked up I was and you see how I am today, like you absolutely can have that. Like I'm in my house. My house is a fucking shithole right now, but I mean, I own this house. I'm
Yeah.
this is my mental health area. So you can know that I'm not completely sane because God knows if you have a pile of clothes like that, it equals mental illness. But like I You can't turn a hoe into a housewife, obviously. And my son's in the other room playing Fortnite. I'm surprised you haven't heard him screaming, but it's you can have a good life no matter what. I mean, and but at one point in my life, like I really thought I deserved to just die. You know what I mean? Like you just really think that like that's what's going to happen to you. Like nothing is ever going to change. And so the last thing I want to say is if you're on Suboxone, the chances of you overdosing and dying is reduced so much. If nothing else in 2021, people should consider getting on it so they don't overdose and die. What irritates me, and people don't see it, is these recovery creators, and I'm not like shitting on anyone in particular, but when you push people into abstinence-based treatment, the chances of them overdosing and dying goes up so much when they leave. And it's like, how many times does that person have to overdose before someone suggests something different?
There's a reason why they do that, though. They want them to go to abstinence because they want them to go to treatment. And so going on to MAT, Suboxone, is not going to be money for them. And so that's why they're like, you have to go to my treatment center, because they don't make money off of people like me who have been on Suboxone for 6 years and haven't relapsed in 6 years.
But I think another piece to that is sometimes our family members push us into going to rehab because they want to fucking break. They want to break. They want you to go to rehab because they want you to go away for 30 days. They want to know where you're at. They want to break, but they're not thinking about whether this is the best for you or not. Because we wear our families out. We wear them out. Our loved ones, we wear them out. And they think, but that's a bill of goods that Dr. Drew and all these people have sold them, that you go into the rehab that I was in, people were using in the rehab. 2 people got pregnant in the time that I was doing outpatient there. Like, people were fucking on the stairs. I mean, I threatened someone with a broom there. I'm surprised, like I was going to beat her ass because she didn't do my chore. Like, it was like not a safe place, the rehab I was in. But, my mom's thinking I'm safe. She's sending me like 2 pairs of dress out sweatpants because I just they took me there in shackles. She thinks I'm in a safe place. It's like, okay, it's safer than me being in the open air drug market, but it's not necessarily a safe place. But, overall, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful I slept in the bed. I'm grateful I have the life that I have today. I'm grateful I don't have to pick up today. So what do I think about psilocybin mushrooms helping with addiction? So psychedelic therapy has its benefits. Microdosing with psilocybin and other things helping with addiction. I've mostly seen research of it having to do with depression. I mean, a lot of those things you really have to find a professional who can really help you with that. Like it just really depends. It really depends on the person, and a lot of it is like, I can go to the best treatment center in the world, but if I'm in a shithole when I get home and everybody's using, then what's going to happen to me? Like, what is the environment that you're in? Like, a lot of these rehabs are not, like, if I'm homeless and I go to a rehab, that's a step up. Now I have a base of operations. I can try to get myself into housing. I can set some things up for myself. But if I already have a fairly decent place to live and I can find some kind of outpatient treatment or find some other things to do, like some people straight up start smoking weed, they quit doing heroin, they quit doing speed, they can manage like that. That's great. I mean, if you can do it, I would say try things, and if it doesn't work, try something different. If you call the dope man and the dope man says, I'm out of heroin today, you don't be like, oh, okay. You're calling the next one. The next one. But when it comes to recovery, people are like, they get all scared, like, oh, I don't want to try something else. It's like, no, you have to hustle. Just like you hustled in the streets, you have to hustle now. You have to find that hustle to do something positive for yourself because it's going to pay off. And never feel ashamed. If something didn't work, if you relapse and stuff like that, never feel ashamed. It's a learning experience. Like, okay, that didn't work. When people contact me and they say, I want to quit using drugs, I say, well, what have you tried before? And what were you successful? What were the things that helped you in the past? Because all the answers are inside of you. All the answers are inside of you. You know what's going to work for you. It's what's called mirroring. So treatment is not a window, it's a mirror. It's helping someone is supposed to be a mirror. I'm holding something up to you. You don't need to see who I am. It's you seeing yourself in a different way, and I'm trying to help you change your perspective. So in this case, find what is going to work for you and try that. And if it doesn't work, try something different, and you'll get to the. It's a whole lifetime process. It's not just like a sprint. Like I'm just going to get there. It's like a whole thing. Like in a whole life. Like when people say the difference between abstinence and harm reduction is in abstinence at 90 days. If you say you relapsed, people say you have to go back to the very beginning.
Right.
In harm reduction at 90 days, if you say I used, I relapsed, they say, well, 89 days you didn't use. So what did you do? What did you do that helped you those other 89 days? Is that, if that's something that you're interested in, then figure out how to go back to that. You already have proof that you can do it.
Right.
You already have proved it. So it's just a mindset. It's a way. I mean, it's a mindset is such a like terrible word, but I mean, it's like a way of looking at things, like having a way of trying to navigate the world that's works for you.
Right. Proceeding, instead of perceiving things as the glass is half empty, we look at it as half full or whatever. So I just started like trying to help people understand that, like, if you go out and you pick up one time and you come back or whatever, that it's like you learn something from that, like dissect what happened, what was going on that week, what was going on a month ago that you kind of led you to that point of going and picking up, I think there's so many people that I was the same way. I would get so ashamed. I would be so embarrassed. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to tell everybody what I did and how they're going to tell me I have to start over. And so I totally agree. Like, you had all those days. You didn't lose your recovery. You gained experience. I agree.
Yeah. And what stopped you? Like, if, I've told people before, if I started using, you wouldn't see me again. Like, that's, because I would be so ashamed or whatever. I would just keep using. And I don't know if that's true anymore. I mean, now it's like, first of all, I'm too terrified to use. I really believe my heart would give out if I did a stimulant. Like, I can't even drink coffee anymore. Like, I think a lot of women wonder why they feel like shit. Investigate your hormones. Get your hormones checked. It's a medical test they can give you, and also check how much caffeine you drink, because I can't drink caffeine anymore. I can just have like a little bit, because it makes me so anxious. It gives me heart palpitations. And I also, there's fentanyl in everything. So I just don't think, and drinking makes me want to stab people. So I'm not good at that. Like, people think I'm kidding, but if people who know me are like, oh, that's true. Like, yeah. When I drink, I'm either crying in the bathroom, poor pitiful me, or I'm angry and I'm trying to stab somebody. And it's like, and there's not a lot of in between, because I'm nuts, so I'm just that way. I don't know why.
It's not worth it. And also, like, we don't want to throw away everything we worked so hard to build up to, you know what I mean? That's what helps me stay sober, is I don't want to lose everything. I don't want to lose my son. I don't want to hurt my son. And that is a big motivation for me to stay on the right path. Big motivation.
Sure. So I probably talked myself out.
You did great. I love this. You did amazing. Your first live stream with me. We'll do a lot more live streams, so you better be ready.
Okay. So I have to get off of this thing. I don't even know how to turn it off.
I'll disconnect you. Don't worry. You guys go follow Tracey on her account so we can get her to 100,000. Talk to you later. I'll text you later, okay?
Okay, bye.
Bye, y'all. Yay! Damn, y'all. Okay, so y'all know I'm kind of fangirling over you. I just really look up to Tracey. If you want to watch that documentary, it's on YouTube, and it's Black Tar Heroin is the documentary, you guys. Go watch it. It's really, really good, and it shows what she was like when she was in her addiction. And so I really hope you guys enjoyed her coming on and sharing with us tonight. She's super duper amazing, man, and I really like her a lot. I don't know what, I just really have taken I just attached myself to her. I really look up to her and really like her a lot. And I feel like the more I hear her tell her story, the more I feel like we have so much in common, because I was the same way, you guys. I was the same way with AA and being in the 12 steps, and then realizing that, like, I I don't want to push people away. I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to make people feel like their recovery is not valid. And then experiencing that judgment from the people that I was in recovery with that were in AA, it was like, it just really hurt me so much. And so like now I try to be so open-minded and so accepting of everybody in your pathway. I don't want to make anyone feel like they're not, they can't be here and be with us. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream and upload it onto my YouTube channel. And I will pop back on. Give me about 5 minutes and then I'll pop back on and we'll talk about the live. Okay? All right, you guys. See you in a minute.